Trust everyone has had an opportunity to look at the agenda. Are there any suggested changes? So take a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye. All right. Kevin, you want to talk to us about the minutes from the last meeting? I think several of us have seen emails.
Yes. So Brooks and Brandon both have some things that Taylor's working on to finalize the draft minutes and trying to get a little specific, you know what I mean, specific language that pertains to the ordinance included in that. Although these are not verbatim minutes, there's some things that we want to make sure we catch and make it part of the record. So let Taylor complete those, and the next time we get together, we'll have those draft minutes for your review, if that's okay.
If anybody has an objection to that, I think process-wise, it'd be good. So whenever our next meeting is, we'll have 2 sets of minutes to review and hopefully approve. Okay. So that leads us to our item for this evening. So Kevin, you want to lead us into this?
Yes, Chris,
please?
I'll be glad to. This is the only project tonight. It's conditional zoning 2025-01. It's already conditional rezoned or conditional zoned CZ Central Business. And Laurel and Pine LLC is the applicant. They're requesting a new conditional rezoning of the Pine Laurel Townhomes property. The 0.29 acre property is located between Pine Street and Laurel Lane and was approved for conditional rezoning in 2021 for a 14-room hotel project, and then approved for 8 townhomes in November of 24. The applicant is now proposing the construction of 5 townhomes on the property. Just a brief background, as I mentioned, it was approved for a 14-room hotel in 2021, and at that time the site was graded and the underground utilities were installed. Then once the footers were dug and poured, the ownership paused with their construction, and then, as I mentioned, they received approval last year for an 8-unit townhome, and then again modified the plans to what you see here tonight, what will be presented. That is a 5-unit townhome project. The street setback for town center, see, that's old language. It's central business. This property is central business and conditional central business, but it's 15 feet, and that's measured from the back of the existing or proposed sidewalk. And this project meets the setback on both streets, Pine and Laurel, and also the side setbacks, which are 5 feet. So there's no issue with any setbacks. Let me move to another plan and I'll come back to that one. Talk about building height. The maximum building height for central business zoning was changed to 35 feet in November of 24. The previously approved townhomes were allowed to be 39 feet 10 inches, and that was for the 2 middle units. And the current plans show the middle unit roof to be 37 feet 3 inches, about 2 feet shorter than the previously approved plans. And there are also 2 roof peaks on each side of the townhomes with a roof height of 37 feet 1 inch. The applicant has requested a condition that the roof peaks be allowed to be increased up to 40 feet for every additional 5 feet of horizontal distance from the 15-foot setback. So as the building moves in, they would like to take advantage of that, but that it would not be greater than 40, and as it's designed, would not be greater than 37 feet. 37 feet 3 inches, I think it is. The architectural design has changed somewhat from the previous plans. A little bit more variation. They've got heavy wooden beams, vertical wood siding, horizontal lap siding. They've got stone veneer. They do have some areas of stucco on this. Architectural roof shingles, They've also got some metal accents on some gables and over some dormers and some little roof accents that are metal. These are some of the materials that are proposed. Metal roofing and the architectural shingle shown. I'm going to go back, if I can, to the site plan. So parking's going to come in again on Pine Street one way and go through the site and exit onto Laurel Lane. One thing unique about this project is that they will drive under two of the units or two of the garage units and to pass through. You can see a little bit more here in this view. This view over here in the corner is going to be, if you're on Pine Street looking at I call it the back, although it's kind of the front, but as you would drive through the site, and then you can see this bottom one, that would be those elevations that are east, that would face the Village Shops project. Since fire apparatus cannot pass through, they've tried to meet the standard for the hose lay through the site, but the building will be required to be sprinkled. Stormwater runoff, that's already been installed and meets our code for the detention, and it, I think, it leaves the site through Pine Street. Sewer's already been connected, stubbed out at least, and it goes to Pine Street. Also, water is installed in Pine Street. There was a hot box that was installed with a sprinkler and a backflow preventer, and they're working to, right now, I think I said the same thing last year, but if you've seen that on Laurel Lane, it's real bright silver, and they're working to mimic or to minimize that and camouflage that as best they can. Garbage collection will be in rollout containers on the east side of the property located adjacent to Pine Street. And the proposed conditions, I listed those for you. I'll read those. The properties must be combined because there currently still is there exist as two properties, and we would do that before we issue a building permit. The applicant must submit and receive approval of a method to camouflage and screen the utilities, the hot box that I mentioned. And the building heights may step up beyond the 35-foot max height at a rate of 1 foot of vertical height for every additional 5 feet of horizontal distance from the setback lines to a maximum of 40 feet. That's the proposed conditions from the applicant. Held a neighborhood meeting last week, and then that's all the presentation. I will take you through all the way through the plans. This is landscape plan. The elevations and the renderings, materials. These are the floor plans. They're all 3-bedroom, correct? All 3-bedroom. They do meet the parking requirements. They do have garage units, but they do have some surface lots or surface spaces too. That shows a little more specific how the parking works and the drive aisle through that. You can see some individual parking spaces in between. So I can go back through any of the slides you'd like, answer any questions, and the applicant would like to speak and present what they'd like to do.
So if it's okay with the board, perhaps we could let the applicant speak, provide additional information, and then we can ask questions as appropriate to either the applicant or to Kevin. Okay. So whomever, if you could just identify yourself, please.
Will Garner, the Dealway Companies. Don't have much to add other than what Kevin said. This is a much better project than what we had planned last year. You know, we we had a mix of 1 and 2 bedroom units that folks were gonna try and use as 2 and 3. And so we got into construction drawings, we realized we were having ceiling heights of 8 feet, and it just wasn't gonna work. So our plan was to back up to these less units, which are bigger, nicer units, more square footage, all of them 3 bedroom. We can park it pretty easily, so just feel like we have a much better plan here, more successful than last year's.
Okay. Is that all you want to proactively play? So, yeah, open it to questions of the board.
Just a quick comment and question. I love this plan. This is far better compliments to you. This is much improved from the one that was approved last year. Less number of units, better finishes, slight different height, a lot of differences in the facade. I like it a lot. Just a couple of minor questions. The metal accents, are those going to be dark gray or black?
It would likely be in a charcoal gray. Or
Like a charcoal
similar.
gray? And is this going to be townhome fee ownership or condominium?
Town.
Fee ownership? You're going to subdivide it into 5 separate units, okay? And just a quick question for Kevin. Who owns that lot that fronts on Wallingford in front of us? Is that a town?
Susan DeVore that owns the Rock House across the street.
Okay. So that is a developable lot behind this project.
Yes,
And it's zoned what?
I think O&I.
Okay.
I'll check. I'll come back to you.
And one more question, with those, I like those terraces, there's 5 different terraces. Do you know if those would be visible from Main Street? Wouldn't be a problem, I'm just curious if.
Not Main Street.
Yeah, maybe visible from the backside. So it'd be visible from that adjacent lot on the rear.
Don't these terraces face,
They face that lot you were just.
oh, they
talking
face the
about.
lot, okay. I got that backwards. Okay. Again, good job, thank you.
Thanks.
Other questions of applicant or Kevin? Okay, thank you. So,
Procedural, do they have to combine that lot before council can approve it, or do?
It can be a condition. What we said was we would do it before they submit for a building permit, or before we approve a building permit.
Okay,
It's just it can be addressed in the draft ordinance that we put together that is signed before they move forward.
okay, thank you.
so at this point, for those in the audience, just a reminder, we are an advisory board. That said, if anyone has any comments they would like to make about this project to the board, we'd be happy to hear them. It's not a time for interactive questioning, but if anyone has any comments they'd like to make, I'd have you come up here and state your name and address and do so. All right. Thank you. So with that, okay. With that, we'll turn it over to Bill for a question.
Open space in central business, that 40%, is that, I'm assuming that's, it looked like just from an observation that they had 40% of plantings. Does anybody check that?
I know they do on the Laurel Lane side. Let's go back to the landscape plan. I would say more than that because there's nothing but planted green space with it between the sidewalk and the building. There's not a sidewalk, there's not a structure.
So it only applies on the sides?
It only applies between the street of the sidewalk and the building.
Okay. Yeah. no. 'Cause then you would just count the driveway opening would be the only unvegetated part of that strip.
Right.
Okay.
Kevin, I have just a question about the site plan, and perhaps the architect might be better, but the west property boundary that we're looking at, where is it relative to the retaining wall that's already out there? And will that retaining wall have to be moved?
We'll be using the existing retaining wall, probably extending it. It's
Extending it toward Laurel and Pine, or extending it?
extending it toward Third Pine, just kind of extend it to cover that parking area there. But the retaining wall is roughly on the setback, currently the side setback.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions? All right, so we will close the input session portion of this. Before we take a motion, is there discussion among the board?
I'm just having a heartburn about that 40 foot. Can you clarify how that, I mean, the 37 is okay, that's still 2 foot higher than the building behind them when you compare the elevations of the two and the shops on Main. So if they go up much more above 37, you probably are going to see it from Main Street.
You want to see it?
You're not gonna see it from Main Street unless you're 30 feet in the air,
Yeah.
because the building,
Well, you're in between the, if you look in between the buildings, it's going to be there.
yeah. I don't think it's.
And we
I don't-
raised the height for central business just last year from 30 to 35. And they're on 37, which, you know, I
Well-
can see a few feet, but
Well, they're actually,
5.
right, they're lower than what was approved the same night
Yeah.
that we adopted the code. And the code had a provision, when they were approved originally, that allowed you to step back for every 5 feet, you go back, you can go up a foot to a
So that's
maximum.
what they're referring to in the application.
Yeah, that's
We
what
got
they-
rid of that, I guess, didn't we?
We did, we cleaned that language up and eliminated that and just said limited to 35 feet. But where for the part of the building, so these are going to be on individual lots. So it's technically not one building. Although it's one structure, if you look at it, you're not going to know the difference if there's a property line even there. But as you move to the inside of the lot, and it staggers a little bit as you get to the middle, or your elevation or your building height is measured from the entrance into the building once you get to that point. Once you get back 35 feet from the existing sidewalk, you don't measure from the sidewalk elevation, you then measure from the entrance into the building. And so as you go back to that point, then no other building walls measured from the average finished grade along the base of the wall to the highest point of structure may exceed 45 feet high. That was the change we went to, but we did clarify some of that other language and eliminated the step level.
Yeah.
They're just asking for that as a condition to be lower than what they were approved at currently, and to be at 37 for this, this middle section, and then
37.1 and 37.3.
37.3 there and 37.1, that peak
Yeah.
and that peak.
And that's fine. I just would hate to see it go higher than that.
Right, well, then you could ask, as they propose a condition, you could ask if they would consider maximizing at what's been drawn on the plans at 37 feet. Because it's their condition, and ultimately it comes to council. They would have to be willing to accept that modification.
They would have to be willing to accept it at town council. I mean, we could
Yeah.
make any
You can make any
recommendation.
recommendation, that's true.
Okay.
Whether or not
Yeah, it's not us to negotiate.
that's right. But you can make your point known.
And so just as a comment, not a process and not for Kevin, but Bill, I mean, just from my perspective, I think we ought to stick with the 35 feet. Whether, if that meant a mansard roof so that the space was still usable the way it's envisioned in their plan or not, I'd be okay with that kind of change, but I think the 35 feet was important. And it was, like you said, something that was an upward change in central business intentionally, and going then beyond that, to me, is unpalatable at this point. But
I will point out something that, based on the legislation from December of '24, if there is an ordinance that makes something non-conforming, like our code did, to an approved project or to a property that's not been through a development process, it's considered downzoning. And we just went over it today at the planning conference.
Unless it's approved by the property owner.
Unless the property owner requests it. Right. So, technical issue, and there's a lot of unknowns as we move forward after that legislation.
any other comments, questions?
I like the 35 feet. I would agree with you on that, Chris. Exception 1 becomes exception number 2 somewhere else, becomes exception number 3 later on. And I think it's a beautiful building, and I like the design. But when we talk character and charm, that's a big lot on that big building on that lot. And I think 35 feet is where we ought to stay.
What does it do to the building envelope if you do drop down to 35?
You're gonna lose a lot of articulation.
Okay.
Right? It's gonna become a more boring building, is the reason we're asking.
So it's for an aesthetic.
It is purely aesthetic.
Got it.
Realistically, we probably don't have any intention of going over 37, but it was a buffer and following the language we were designing under prior to the change.
So my only other comment is a materials comment, and this was not a code change. I think it was consistent. The code has not changed, but the way I understand, this is about the stucco. And I don't know how much stucco is in here, but about the stucco, I believe our language was unchanged, that in Article 21, Section 4.2, it allows, it may include stucco only if it is, I'm paraphrasing, but only as it's specifically approved by the planning board and or the town council. The way I would understand that is an option for us. And I think we consistently have had a lot of sentiment about not having stucco in the downtown area. And I know this is central business and not sitting right on Main Street, but still clearly a part of our downtown. And from that perspective, and I see with the exploded view, the stucco, which appears to be minimal, I don't think we should have stucco.
We should what?
Not have stucco. We should not be approving stucco, which my understanding of, and I'm willing to be told I'm wrong, but my understanding of that section is that stucco is allowed if it's only if it's approved, specifically approved by the town council, planning board and the town council. As a comment, that is not,
The code says exterior building materials adjacent to a street. So stucco is not allowed facing a street.
that's 4.1.
Yeah, 4.2. In addition to those materials, stucco or other equivalent that are specifically approved by planning board and council, as the case may be, stucco may not be used to cover or replace old historic brick on existing buildings.
Yeah, so the way I understand 4.2 is it could be, stucco is allowed in central business, but, or elsewhere, but only as it's specifically approved by the planning board and or town council.
Yep.
So, my conclusion of that is that I think we heard pretty loud and clear that people didn't want stucco downtown, and so my preference would be to not have stucco on the building. On the exterior of the building. So,
This is a place, right there. So you've got, this comes out, and this is recessed back inside, so it's beside that garage door. And on the other one too, that one, the three that are recessed.
like everyone else, I love the plan, I love the garages, specifically getting cars out of visual. I think that's good for residents, I think it's good for our visitors to have a less cluttered. I think the architecture looks great. Just a couple, again, what I would perceive to be minor changes about building height and the stucco. So, any other comments among the board, discussion among the board before we entertain a motion? Okay, would someone like to make a motion?
I move that we recommend to the town council that we approve, or that they approve CZ 2025-02 as presented with the applicant's proposed conditions.
I'll second that motion for discussion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, discussion. Okay, my only discussion would be, I would prefer we limit it to 35 feet in the stucco, but that's where I'm coming from with this, so.
I agree.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second, no other discussion, we'll take a vote, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, so I believe that failed 4-3. I have counted wrong in the past, so I'm saying that out loud. All right. So could we entertain a second motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve it with the amendments of maximum height of 35 feet and no stucco.
A second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Discussion on that?
Any discussion?
Yeah, I got it. Oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask the architect again, by limiting it to 35, are we losing some articulation, or is it going to look more like a box?
It'll be more boxy, you're exactly right. It really just bring bridges down, and you have less definition and articulation in the facade.
And the other question is, what would you do in lieu of that little bit of stucco?
Off the top of our head, we could extend the stone, or we could do more wood lap siding. Materials we already have there.
And you wouldn't have a problem with that, I assume, agreeing to that condition?
I don't think that's a huge deal breaker for us.
But would you be agreeable to the limitation of the height to 35 feet?
Without knowing what it would look like, you have to kind of play with it and see. And again, it's not the entire structure that we're just talking about, it's just your tallest peaks there.
I think we'd be more amenable to limiting the condition to 37.5 or something that gives us what we're asking for, no farther, to maintain the design integrity versus, the risk of going 40. That's something that the board members would find amenable.
Correct me if I'm wrong, the first floor is 9 feet, second floor is 10.5, third floor is 10. Does that sound right?
I believe it's 9 for the 8.6 for the third floor.
I'm sorry.
It's 9, 9, and 8.6 plus 18 into the structure for the first floor and then 2 feet of structure for the second floor.
True. Yeah, true. Okay.
Okay. Any more discussion among the board? All right. Have a vote, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay. So I believe that carried 4-3. As a recommendation. Again, we're an advisory board, and town council will get to hear this and provide their wisdom on this. All right, thank you. So we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. Is there any old business?
No, but I'll do a quick summary that the subcommittee on workforce housing met last week. We invited Rich Kaplan as a consultant to speak with the group. And he, I could not be here at that time. I met with him prior, but apparently it went very well. And I think we're going to try to retain his services to help us through this and ultimately come up with a draft ordinance and some things that we could put before you. And so we're still working on it.
Great.
Yes.
Okay. Any questions, Kevin? Or other subcommittee, committee members who were here?
Did you find out any more about Senate Bill 382? What the prospect for,
I don't know all the numbers specifically.
the down zoning?
Down on it. Yes, I'll have, if anybody wants it, I'll have the presentation.
I'm sure that was a hot topic this week.
It was today. We spoke a lot about it. There's not anything in the statute about nonconformities, but there is in everyone's ordinance, how it addresses nonconformities. So, there was questions about whether or not you could adopt a new UDO.
Yeah, a lot of people are just holding it. They've got them done and can't get them adopted.
Mills River got special legislation so they could adopt their UDO. So we're not shaking the tree any on some of the things that we had wanted to do as a subcommittee or as a planning board to move forward. We are, and there's been a lot that have made promises that, hey, we're going to address some of the things on this down zoning bill that was approved in December, but there's been no action. So our hands remain tied in a lot of ways.
There were a ton of jurisdictions that had filed bills right before the session ended to exempt themselves from it, but Watauga wasn't one of them.
No, well, Watauga don't have any zoning.
Well, all the towns
yes, that's
in
right.
that county.
No,
I think they did it by county and everybody in there.
they did.
Rather than doing individual cities.
That's right.
All right, thank you. Motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Aye.